The United States Supreme Court made two major rulings at the start of this week that deal with Donald Trump's assertion of these wartime dictatorial-esque powers. And Harry Littman from the Talking Feds YouTube, Talking Feds Substack, and Talking Feds podcast, and I, as you know, we've been discussing what's the dynamic going to be at the Supreme Court when these cases start to kind of come before it. And the case involving Abrego Garcia is one of them, which was before a federal judge in Maryland, Judge Zenas. This involved Abrego Garcia, Maryland man. There was a protection order issued by an immigration judge during the first Trump administration, 2019. The order from 2019 was clear. This individual, Abrego Garcia, was to check in with ICE, but to never be sent to El Salvador. It was crystal clear what was said. The Trump regime kidnapped Abrego Garcia, I don't know how else to say it, sent him to El Salvador, put him in the concentration camp in El Salvador. The Department of Justice lawyer showed up in the Maryland federal court, admitted that a mistake was made, an error was made, said that the Trump regime was not giving this DOJ lawyer even the data to be able to be candid with the court. So then the Trump regime retaliated against that DOJ lawyer, took adverse employment actions, and put that lawyer on administrative leave for following their ethical responsibilities. Anyway, Judge Zenas gave the Trump regime a deadline of Monday evening, return Abrego Garcia. It's clear he should not have been sent there. It's a contract that you entered with Nayib Bukele, the authoritarian leader of El Salvador. In a contract, go make the phone call. By the way, the United States of America extradites even the most dangerous, I think this is an important point that gets lost, the most dangerous gang members all the time to the United States and brags about it. So for all of this talk also, by the way, Abrego Garcia, there's no evidence that this guy is a dangerous gang member. And as I'm sure many of you know from the 60 Minutes report that we've talked about, 75% of the people in El Salvador have zero criminal record here, zero criminal record abroad. But I just want to make the point that the United States frequently extradites the most dangerous gang members intentionally to the United States so that they can be tried in our court system here. So anytime the Trump regime tries to say, oh, we have to do this because they can't be here, they're bringing the gang members here for extradition. Anyway, I digress. Judge Zenas ruled bring Abrego Garcia back. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeal, including a Reagan judge on this unanimous panel, was a scathing order saying it's unconscionable what the Trump regime is doing. And then the Supreme Court made a ruling that basically stayed, at least as of right now of this recording, indefinitely when Abrego Garcia, what's going to happen to Abrego Garcia, those orders from the district court. Now, it was a quick turnaround on the briefing schedule, but the Supreme Court stepped in, shadow docket, blocked what the district court's order was. Harry, I want to talk about that one. And then I also want to talk about on some procedural venue argument attacking Judge Boasberg's ruling, where Judge Boasberg, issued this injunction basically saying, hey, Trump regime, under Alien Enemies Act, without due process, you can't go and just start kidnapping migrants and sending them to an El Salvador concentration camp. Now, the Supreme Court, and Harry, I want you to get into the weeds here so people understand it. They did talk about, well, there's got to be a habeas petition that's filed. And so there is some process, but they made this weird venue ruling that now the Trump regime is saying, we won, we can kidnap people and send them wherever. So, Harry, I want to bundle those two together, start with whichever one you want. But look, you're former top federal prosecutor, former top prosecutor at Main Justice in D.C. What do you make of all this?
Okay. There's a lot going on as you lay out, Ben. The first thing to note is Abrego Garcia has nothing to do with the Supreme Court ruling. So let me handle them separately. Abrego Garcia is the ultimate nightmare. And if we as a civilized society could actually let happen what Trump and the administration are arguing for. Namely, they send him there. They know they made a mistake and they continue to assert, so what? He might have been a gang member anyway. By the way, as you say, one stray informant once said that in a place where he didn't even live. Very little reason to think it. But if that could actually go down, man, we are not living in a rule of law, even decent, much less democratic society. But nothing about what's happened so far says that will occur. All right. I will get a teeny bit into the weeds, or really, Ben, as much as you want. I'm here for you and your listeners. But to the extent that they said in the Boasberg case yesterday, you need to do this in habeas. Abrego Garcia has done it in habeas. So one of the claims before Judge Zinnes is in habeas, as well as the Fifth Amendment claim, the APA claim, the claims that the dissenters in the Supreme Court were saying are perfectly good. You don't need to have a habeas, which is the same thing that the DC Circuit said. But back to Abrego Garcia. He's got the habeas. Now, you're right. For the second time yesterday, the Supreme Court parachutes in, and it looks like in the headlines, they give Trump administration a major win. And in a sense, they saved their bacon because there were only a few hours left until he had to be back, as according to the ruling by Judge Zinnes. And I'm here to bet that they hadn't done squat to make it happen. They were playing chicken and rolling the dice on Supreme Court. But this is the more important point. All Roberts has done here, and we've seen this now in different situations, depending where a case comes up from. He's gotten the request for emergency relief from the United States, and he's imposed on his own an administrative stay simply to permit the court to, in very quick fashion, get the papers and make a determination. If they get them and they make the determination, oh, well, yeah, we completely screwed him, a screw up, as that conservative Reagan judge put it, but nothing to be done now, then that's woeful, and we are a giant step down the road to unchecked authoritarian power. But they could do any of many different things, including just saying, we're not going to grant this special relief to the administration. We froze things for a few hours so we could decide that. And now we're deciding, bring it back to the district court. She was doing fine with it, and she can continue to do it. And then presumably the habeas action that Abrego Garcia has brought will continue. The law says that even if you're being held in El Salvador, you can bring a habeas action based on the unlawful conduct of government actors back here. And Zinnes can issue an order. Yes, she can't say, but this is a straw man on the administration's part. She can't say, I hereby command you that he will be here by such and such a time. All that can happen, because they screwed up and he's now in El Salvador, is they do everything they can to effectuate it. We could have in the near future a kind of back and forth, as has been in Boasberg's court, where they show up and said, sorry. And she would then say, what do you mean, sorry? Who did this? What did they do? What did they offer? I'm not satisfied yet. So even though the order can't say, bring him back, because he's now in El Salvador, she can hold their feet to the fire. My best guess is the Supreme Court will give her the opportunity to do just that. And if they don't, then you and I will be back in a special edition, really lamenting. But he's still got process, and nothing about the Boasberg case changes that. All right. Now the Boasberg case, or jump in if I've been talking too long and you want to frame it. What happened there? Boasberg is doing two things. He is still deciding. We'll see whether the air is out of the tires now and he just lets it go, whether they violated his order back on March 15th. But he's also deciding this class of claims. and they do not include habeas corpus. They originally did, and the plaintiffs dropped those claims after Boasberg got out of the box with the other ones that seemed to be violated. So the ACLU is pronouncing themselves fairly sanguine about it all, because the most important thing, there were features of the opinion that I thought were bad, and I'll get to them in a moment. But the most important thing is 9 members of the court, from Alito to Jackson, all say you get some review, notice, and opportunity to be heard in habeas corpus. They insist it be habeas corpus for me, unpersuasive reasons, but that's pivotal here. That's why they're able to say the government's probably going to win, and therefore we grant this, we dissolve the TRO. You get review not just to say, I'm not that guy, I've never been in the gang. And as you say, a great number of people, including Abrego Garcia, haven't broken any laws here. We know at least that much. But also, and very importantly, to say that the administration is trying to apply this statute to me. It's a war statute that says at a minimum, there's got to be a predatory incursion by a foreign country. And what we have is a ragtag group at most of a few hundred gang members in the United States. That's not a predatory incursion by a foreign country. They are entitled to have a court decide that in habeas. That's the big news. The other points that they, reverse Boasberg, who's been really doing such heavy lifting at all, that they use their emergency docket once again, and Sotomayor and Jackson really take him to task. Come on, guys, we didn't need to do this. That their opinion is sterile and gives no sort of flavor of the really existential issue for a rule of law that it presents. Those things I think are unsettling. But let's just lead with the good news, which is there will be judicial review going forward, and the administration will have to give notice and opportunity to be heard if they win, and this does give them the green light to recommence these capers and deportations. So what about the people down there? Abrego Garcia is, I think, the paradigm. You can bring a claim, probably in D.C., for someone being held extraterritorially based on the alleged unlawful conduct of the U.S. So even as to them, which the administration tried to get away with, it's not the ultimate Kafkaesque nightmare that they're just down there in this hellhole from which no one's ever left with no possible review whatsoever.
That's why it's helpful to get your analysis, Harry. I mean, the headlines and a lot of the analysis that's been out there, have
Trump wins. Not exactly. Yeah.
Although it is a horrifying situation in the sense of for migrants, it's not like they have constitutional lawyers on their Rolodex. I would say iPhones, but I'm not sure if anybody after 105% tariffs are going to have iPhones or any types of phones anymore in the Trump economy. But yeah, we'll go back to Rolodex, whatever they had in the 1890s, or when Donald Trump says we were the greatest. We'll with our quill. Exactly. I'm not sure people.
I actually have a quill right here somewhere. Somebody sent it to me.
You would have a quill. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
AJ Jacobs sent it to me. Go ahead.
I'm not sure the migrants have lawyers on their on their Rolodex. So who do you call in a situation? ICE detains you. There's a short window. What does that look like? People, what's a habeas, for a lot of people. And then once you're in the El Salvador concentration camp, what happens? I guess the point,
though, here, Harry,
we have not got to the point where we've said habeas filed, party wins habeas, court orders back, and then Trump officially says in a case that has the right venue, the right location, no, I'm not returning them. It's Bukele. That case hasn't gone before the Supreme Court yet.
100%. And that is the big case. If they go south on that one, we're in really, really lamentable shape. But that is temporarily frozen, and you're 100% right. If somehow there are 5 votes, and it would include Roberts, it does seem like it's this 5 on these fundamental questions with Barrett, with the progressives. If they give them that, I'm scanning the real estate listings for foreign housing, but I do not, and I have a Substack really laying this out at greater length today, and I just, man, oh man, oh man, it's a terrible situation that we're all at the mercy of John Roberts, who can be mercurial, and I've said before, there are 2 different John Roberts. If it's the bad John Roberts here, it is a bad, 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 bad day for society. But if it's the good one, notwithstanding the procedural demands and the, little temporary procedural victory for the administration, overall, the center holds. And the federal courts, notice, who've been doing, even now at the Court of Appeal level, right? The District of Columbia Court of Appeals, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, who affirmed in these cases, we're still, the glass is more than half full, assuming they don't completely go south on this very issue that you're identifying.
Harry Litman, Talking Feds YouTube, Talking Feds Substack, Talking Feds podcast. It's where I get my legal news from. All the Meidas Mighty subscribe to the Talking Feds universe of media, podcast, Substack, and Substack YouTube podcast.
YouTube. Yeah.
Check it all out. Thanks, Harry.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Ben.
Love this video? Continue the conversation by following us on.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.